Welcome, everyone, to the travel podcast by ExcursionPass. I am so excited you're here with us today.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one. We've got a lot of ground to cover.
We really do. And, if you listen to this show, we like to act as your sort of personal travel scouts.
Right, we do heavy lifting, we live the experiences, dig into all the details.
So you don't have to, which is exactly the mission for today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We are looking at a really premium ultimate experience.
The Barossa Valley Wine Tours.
Yes. Specifically the ones offered through ExcursionPass, and we're zeroing in on an operator called Small Batch Wine Tours.
Which is just a fascinating setup to analyze.
It is. But look, I know you, the listener, and I can almost hear you throwing your hands up in the air right now.
Oh, I know exactly what they're thinking.
Right.
What?
Because whenever we start talking about guided group travel, this wave of dread just sets in.
Yeah, the classic cattle class vacation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're probably sitting there thinking, look, I hate crowded tour buses. I despise rigid schedules where some guide is like blowing a whistle every 20 minutes.
Everybody back on the bus.
Yes. And, the absolute worst part, getting handed a sad, soggy sandwich in a plastic clamshell for lunch. I mean, I would absolutely lose it.
We have all endured that trauma, standing in some sweltering parking lot with 40 total strangers.
Oh, waiting for a bus with broken air conditioning to take you to a tourist trap.
It's honestly the fastest way to ruin a holiday. But what's so compelling about the sources we're looking at today is that this operator represents, well, a highly curated key to a world-renowned region.
Right. Our goal today is to completely shatter those group tour fears.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to walk you through every sensory detail, almost like we're right there in the car with you.
Because if your only goal is just to consume alcohol, I mean, you can do that in your own living room, right?
Literally on your couch.
Exactly. What this experience does is strip away all the anxiety of logistics and replaces it with just unprecedented access.
So let's actually start at the very beginning of this whole 8 to 9 hour journey to see how that access plays out. Picture this. It's 9:05 in the morning.
A very civilized time.
Right. You are standing outside your downtown Adelaide accommodation. Or, maybe it's 9:50 a.m. and you're already up in the Barossa.
A
Luxury transfer vehicle pulls up.
But, and I know where you're going with this, you're still getting into a vehicle with people you don't know.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I have to push back here immediately. If there are strangers in the car, aren't I still just rolling the dice? Like, how is this actually different from that middle school field trip vibe we were just talking about?
Well, the difference lies in this really profound psychological shift. This operator uses what we can basically call a microgroup model.
Okay, microgroup.
Yeah, the tour is strictly capped at just 6 people.
Wait, just 6?
6 people. Or actually, if you book a private tour through ExcursionPass, you can have a maximum of 7.
Wow, okay. So that is essentially you, your partner, and maybe 2 other couples.
Exactly. And that completely changes the acoustics and the social dynamics of the vehicle.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, because in a 40-person bus, you get this huge bystander effect. People just zone out, they stare at their phones, and the guide has to literally use a microphone and shout over the engine.
While you're desperately trying to take a nap in the back.
Right. But in a microgroup, it feels like a road trip with a really knowledgeable local friend.
And the sources mention specific guides, right? Like, I saw names like Tom, Matt, and Chris coming up constantly in the reviews.
Oh, people rave about them. They're described as absolute legends. They aren't standing at the front of a bus reading from a laminated script.
They are having an actual conversation. But what are they actually talking about for that whole hour on the drive from Adelaide up into wine country?
Well, they're actively reading the room. They tailor the narrative. So before a single drop of wine is even poured, they delve into the local history, which is crucial for understanding the region.
Because Barossa has this really fascinating German heritage, right?
It does. You have Silesian settlers who arrived in the 1800s, basically fleeing religious persecution in Prussia.
Wow.
And they brought their own architecture, their smoked meats, and crucially, their viticulture practices.
So the guide is setting this relaxed, sort of intellectual tone.
Exactly, so that when you finally arrive, you understand the cultural soil that grew the wine you're about to drink.
Okay, so that hour probably just flies by.
Oh, completely.
So we arrive in the Barossa Valley, we step out of the vehicle, and let's really engage the senses here. The air smells like eucalyptus, maybe some crushing grapes in the distance.
It's a gorgeous mental image.
It is. We are walking into the cellar doors. But, and let me stop you right here, because this is where my own personal anxiety spikes.
Okay, let's hear it.
Assume I am not a wine snob. In fact, What if I don't even like big, heavy reds? Because Barossa is famous globally for these massive powerhouse Shiraz wines, right?
It absolutely is.
So am I going to be forced to pretend I enjoy a heavy, super tannic Shiraz all morning just to be polite to the winemaker?
Okay, let's demystify that for a second. Because when you hear the word tannic, what does that actually mean to you, like physically?
To me, it means the wine feels really dry, almost like it's sucking all the moisture out of my cheeks.
Yeah.
But I honestly couldn't tell you why it does that.
No, that is a perfect description. Tannins are naturally occurring compounds, basically polyphenols, that are found inside grape skins, the seeds, and the stems.
Okay.
Think about leaving a black tea bag in a mug of hot water for, like, way too long.
Oh, yeah. That bitter, dry feeling.
Right. When you take a sip, it feels incredibly astringent and drying. That is tannin. And because the Barossa Valley has a hot, really dry climate, the Shiraz grapes have to develop thicker skins to protect themselves from the sun.
Which means more tannins.
Exactly. Thicker skins mean more tannins, which results in those bold, heavy, powerhouse wines the region is famous for.
Okay, that makes complete sense from a biological standpoint.
Ah.
But that brings me right back to my fear. What if I hate that dry black tea feeling? Am I just trapped drinking it all day?
See, if you were on a standard budget bus tour, yes, you absolutely would be.
You'd just be marched up to the tasting bar.
Handed a glass of heavy Shiraz and expected to smile and nod. But the flexibility of this microtour is actually its greatest asset. The itinerary isn't locked in stone.
So they can change it on the fly.
They do. The guides actually use pre-tour surveys to understand your group's palate before you even turn the ignition in Adelaide.
Wait, really? They're doing homework on my taste buds before we even leave.
They are. And then they pivot in real time based on your reactions during the first tasting. Let's say you tell them, you prefer a lighter, more delicate shade of wine.
Yeah, like a Pinot or something lighter.
Instead of dragging you to a heavy red producer, the guide might detour to an exclusive estate like Hayes Family Wines. The sources specifically note that this is an organic and biodynamic estate.
Okay, let's pause on biodynamic for a second. I feel like I see that word on fancy wine labels all the time now. Is that just a clever marketing term for organic?
No, it actually goes a massive step further than organic.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, so organic just means farming without synthetic chemicals or pesticides, right? But biodynamic farming treats the entire vineyard as a closed, self-sustaining ecosystem.
What does that look like in practice?
They introduce biodiversity, animals, cover crops, and they often align their planting and harvesting with lunar cycles.
Okay, lunar cycles. That sounds a little mystical.
It does. But whether you subscribe to the lunar calendar aspect or not, the sheer hyper-focus on soil health produces these incredibly vibrant, expressive wines that are often much lighter on the palate.
That sounds amazing.
And the kicker with this tour operator, they might get you into a place like Hayes before the winery even officially opens to the public.
Oh, wow. Now that is the VIP treatment. You are sitting there sipping a delicate biodynamic wine in total peace while the crowds are still waiting at the front gate.
Exactly.
But let's look at the flip side of this micro-group dynamic.
Yeah.
What if I am sharing this luxury vehicle with 4 strangers who actually do want to taste the massive historical hitters? How does a guide balance those competing desires?
Well, that is the invisible art of guiding, right? A masterful guide might take a divided group to a premium producer like Two Hands Wines or Seppeltsfield, Torbreck, Murray Street Vineyards, or Turkey Flat.
Those are some pretty big names.
They are, and these estates have portfolios broad enough to impress the heavy red aficionado while still offering stunning alternatives for you. Like, they might pour you a really floral textured Yalumba Viognier or even a unique sparkling Shiraz.
A sparkling Shiraz. That honestly sounds like a contradiction in terms.
I know, but it is a brilliant Australian specialty. It's basically a red wine served chilled with bubbles.
Really?
Yeah. It has the dark fruit flavors of a Shiraz, but the refreshing effervescence of champagne.
Yeah.
It is completely unique to the region. And of course, a guide might take the group to Langmail.
Oh, which brings us to an incredible detail from the source material. Imagine standing next to a twisted, gnarled vine rooted in the earth. And it was planted in 1843.
It's hard to even wrap your head around that.
I mean, Abraham Lincoln wasn't even president yet. The electric light bulb hadn't been invented. And yet the grapes growing on that exact vine are about to be crushed, fermented, and poured directly into your glass.
It is a phenomenal mental image. When you frame it that way, you realize you aren't just drinking a beverage, you are consuming liquid history.
Langmail is home to the oldest living continuously producing Shiraz vineyard in the entire world, right?
Yes. When you stand next to vines that have survived for almost 2 centuries, weathering droughts and global economic collapses, it fundamentally alters how the wine tastes in your glass.
Yeah.
You are literally tasting survival.
I can absolutely see how that level of storytelling elevates the whole tasting experience.
Right.
But let's be realistic about human biology for a second.
Okay.
After 2 morning wine tastings, even if I'm looking at 1,843 vines and crying over their survival, my taste buds are going to be overwhelmed.
Yes, they are.
The tannins are building up, the alcohol is hitting my bloodstream, I'm going to get hangry, and my palate desperately needs a reset.
You are describing palate fatigue. It's a very real thing. When you taste high tannin, high alcohol wines, those tannins physically bind to the proteins in your saliva.
Oh, so that's why your mouth feels so dry.
Exactly. They strip away the lubrication in your mouth. You physically cannot taste the nuances of the next wine unless you introduce fats and proteins to reset your palate.
And this is precisely where the standard budget tour falls apart entirely.
Yes. This is where the tour strap guide hands you a stale roll with questionable deli meat and a bag of chips.
And tells you to go eat it on a park bench.
Right. But on this itinerary, the culinary intermission is treated with just as much reverence as the wine itself. The experience actually includes a multi-course lunch at a premium local restaurant.
And we're looking at highly acclaimed menus in the source material, too. Places like Fino at Seppeltsfield, which is stunningly integrated into the historic architecture.
Oh, it's beautiful. Or Harvest Kitchen, which recently moved to an amazing new home at Jacobs Creek. Or the renowned Salopian Inn.
So it isn't just picking a generic burger off a laminated tourist menu.
Far from it. It is often a chef's selection featuring hyper-local ingredients, perfectly paired with your choice of a premium beverage. It is a proper, sit-down, gastronomic immersion in the middle of your day.
Which gives your body the fats, the proteins, and just the downtime it needs to recover.
Exactly.
Okay, but this luxury comes with a very specific price tag. And I want to challenge the economics of this a bit.
Let's do it.
The price sits around 250 Australian dollars, which is roughly like 266 US dollars per person.
Which sounds like a lot up front.
It's a massive premium for a day trip. Someone listening is undoubtedly thinking, look, I could just rent a car for 50 bucks, use my GPS, and buy my own nice lunch. Why on earth would I pay nearly $300 for someone else to drive me around?
It is a totally valid question, but it requires us to look at the hidden costs of self-driving. Because if we break down that $266, you have to start with the tasting fees.
Right.
The days of free wine tasting are largely over. At premium, high-end estates in the Barossa, a single tasting flight can easily run you $20 to $40 per person.
Wow. So if you visit 4 wineries,
that's potentially over $100 just to stand at the bar. And that's before you've even eaten a single bite of food.
that is a brilliant point. The math starts catching up with you very quickly.
It really does. Add in a multi-course fine dining experience at a place like Fino, which is easily another $80 to $100. Then add in the cost of a rental car, the insurance, the gas.
So you're basically at the same price point anyway.
Right. But more importantly, you have to factor in the cognitive load.
The cognitive load. What do you...
Yes. The stress of navigating unfamiliar, winding rural roads. The tension between couples arguing over the GPS direction.
You miss a turn. No, it said left.
Exactly.
Oh.
And the immense liability of Australia's incredibly strict drinking and driving laws, which basically forces one person in your group to spit out every single wine and drink water all day.
Oh, that's tragic.
So when you pay for this tour, you aren't just paying for a seat in a van, you are paying to outsource every single drop of anxiety.
You are paying for the privilege to simply exist in a beautiful space, let someone else watch the clock, and have doors open for you that you literally couldn't open yourself.
Precisely.
But, and this is a massive but,
Yeah.
you have to actually want that kind of sophisticated educational experience. Which brings us to arguably the most revealing part of the source material we reviewed for this deep dive.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
Let's talk about the booze cruise misconception.
This is a masterclass in understanding quality control, because it perfectly illustrates who this tour is for, and crucially, who it is absolutely not for.
We have to talk about Ryan, or as he's known on his TripAdvisor profile, Live for Next Holiday.
Oh, Ryan.
Ryan left a scathing one-star review for small batch wine tours. He complained about paying top dollar for a driver who was, in his words, pushy and talked excessive.
Oh, horror.
Right. He also claimed his group was taken to obscure and underwhelming wineries, and he concluded that they would have been far better off just driving themselves.
Now, if you are a consumer scrolling through reviews and you see that, you might naturally hesitate, right?
Sure, a one-star review stands out.
But what is truly fascinating is the glorious, meticulously detailed response from Matthew, the operator of the tour company. It completely recontextualizes the entire day and reveals the hidden integrity of the operation.
Oh, Matthew absolutely brought the receipts. Let's break down the reality of what actually happened to Ryan.
According to the operator's response, Ryan and his group emerged from their accommodation heavily hungover.
Strike one.
Right. They spent the entire morning trying to sleep it off in the luxury vehicle. That completely explains why they found the passionate guide's local history lessons about Silesian settlers to be talking excessively.
The guide was literally just doing his job.
Exactly. For the other paying, enthusiastic guests in the microgroup who actually wanted to learn something.
The entitlement is astounding.
Yeah.
But the response gets even better. Ryan called the guide pushy. Do you want to explain why the guide actually had to push back?
Because Ryan actively deceived the guide. He told the guide he wanted to run into a local shop to grab some, quote, snacks for the drive home.
Which sounds innocent enough.
Right, but instead, he and his friends snuck over to a local pub, bought commercial beers, and tried to illegally smuggle them into the luxury transfer vehicle to just chug on the way back to Adelaide.
Which is not just rude to the other guests, it is a massive legal liability.
Yes, it is a direct violation of local transport licensing laws. Matthew, the owner, explicitly stated in his response that had he been the one driving that day, he would have pulled the vehicle over immediately.
It's good for him.
He said he would have driven them straight to the police station for jeopardizing the company's license and ruining the premium atmosphere for everyone else.
And the absolute cherry on top of this whole disaster, the obscure and underwhelming wineries that Ryan was so furious about, one of them was Langmail,
The one we just discussed.
home to the oldest living Shiraz vines on the planet.
It's hilarious.
Another was an exclusive tasting surrounded by barrels with a man who was crowned James Halliday's best winemaker of 2021.
And for context, for those who don't know, James Halliday is essentially the Robert Parker of Australian wine. A Halliday Award is literally the highest critical praise you can achieve in that country.
And the third, obscure winery. It was a by-appointment-only estate run by the former head of grape growing at Penfolds.
Penfolds.
Which is arguably the most famous heritage wine brand in Australia.
I mean, if those names are obscure, then every serious wine collector on earth desperately wants to be obscure.
It sounds like Ryan walked into a Michelin-starred restaurant, demanded a keg of cheap beer, and got furious when they poured him a perfectly aged vintage wine.
That is exactly what happened.
But, why did we want to highlight this negative review for the listener today? Like, why focus on the drama?
Because it serves as the ultimate green flag for the discerning traveler. This anecdote proves that the operator fiercely protects the boundaries of the experience.
Yeah, they don't just cater to whoever is loudest.
Right. They are dedicated to education, they respect the winemakers whose cellars they visit, and most importantly, they protect the comfort of the guests who actually want to be there.
It is a massive reassuring signal. I mean, if you want a sloppy party bus where you can chug pub beers in the back seat and scream out the window, you need to look elsewhere.
You will despise this tour, and frankly, they will despise having you.
But if you want exclusive, behind-the-scenes access to Australia's best producers, guided by someone who will actively shield your experience from the rowdy crowd, you are in incredibly safe hands.
Because you are paying for curation, and a vital, often completely overlooked part of curation is keeping the chaos out.
Keeping the chaos out. Wow, that is a brilliant way to phrase it. And that curated peace of mind, it carries all the way through to the very end of the day.
It really does.
Picture the final hour. You have finished your fourth tasting. You are pleasantly exhausted. Your palate has traveled through decades of vintages.
You have consumed an incredible restorative meal.
And then, the smooth, late afternoon drop-off.
You just sink into those comfortable leather seats. You watch the sun lower over the South Australian landscape, casting these long shadows over the vineyards.
There are no arguments over who missed the highway exit.
None. There is no anxiety about breathalyzers. You are seamlessly deposited right back at your original departure point in Adelaide, completely hassle-free.
You essentially just float back to your hotel. It really is the dream way to travel, which is why we wanted to break down these itineraries with you on the show today.
It really comes down to making informed choices that elevate how we interact with the world, right?
Yeah.
And as we wrap up this deep dive into the Barossa Valley, There is a broader concept I would really love you, the listener, to ponder.
Oh, what's that?
Well, we live in an era where travel is increasingly dictated by algorithms.
Oh, totally.
We scroll through social media, we see the most geotagged locations, the biggest names with the flashiest signs on the main highway, and our phones basically perfectly commodify our itinerary.
We are guided by what is popular rather than what is profound.
Precisely. We end up standing in line with 1,000 other people to take the exact same photo.
Yep, the classic Instagram trap.
Right. So what if the ultimate luxury in the 21st century isn't a digital shortcut at all?
Okay, I like where this is going.
What if the truest reflection of a destination can never be found on a supermarket shelf or recommended by a search engine, but is hidden behind a quiet, analog cellar door?
A door that can only be unlocked through the friction of human connection and the intuition of a passionate local.
Exactly.
It really makes you wonder how many incredible experiences we walk right past every day just because an algorithm didn't tell us to stop.
Something to think about the next time you're planning an escape.
It absolutely is. Well, thank you all for joining us on the Travel Podcast by ExcursionPass. Until next time, keep exploring.